on the screen for you. So, as I said, by way of introduction, my name is Alan Hearn. I'm the CEO of PlayBoard, and you're all very welcome to this morning's session, which focuses in on the draft programme for government. I'm accompanied this morning by Angela and Catherine, my colleagues in PlayBoard, who will be speaking to you shortly on key elements of the PFG. My role really is supposed to provide a bit of an introduction just in terms of what the programme for government is and what it entails. What we really want to do today is just give you that overview of the PFG. So again, just highlighting, well, number one, what is the programme for government? And I suppose number two, what are the key priorities within it? We then want to zero in on what we see as being two of the key priority areas within the PFG. And Catherine and Angela will run through those in a bit of detail. And then we have a bit of space for a discussion section. And that's really just for any questions you may have, any points you want to make. And I suppose it's important to say that in terms of what we're presenting around the key priority areas 2 and 5, that's very much where we are in terms of our thinking. But again, we are very open to contributions from yourselves in terms of what you feel we as an organisation should be submitting in the consultation response. So what is the programme for government? First off, well, it's the overarching strategic framework for government in Northern Ireland effectively. So it runs for a 3-year period. And the purpose is really to establish the overall vision for the Northern Ireland Executive. And it's focused around a set of high-level objectives. So these really are the objectives the government have collectively agreed across all of the government ministers and all of the departments that they feel will make the most impact in terms of life within Northern Ireland. It is based on an outcomes-based accountability approach. So OBA has become part of the lexicon, part of the language of the sector of late. So it is based on an OBA accountability approach. Which means there's a set of data indicators running alongside the key priority areas that are meant to be a mechanism for measuring progress against each. It is in effect an all-of-government work plan. As I say, it really aims to align cross-government activity behind key priorities. So the priorities are not necessarily aligned to one single department. These are very much about the executive in its entirety, pushing forward on key issues. It provides a roadmap for improving quality of life. So again, these are the key priorities identified by the executive for the next 3 years. And the hope is that over those 3 years, we will see significant progress in terms of delivering those priorities. And as a direct result, that will result in improved quality of life, whether that be for individuals, for communities, for sections within our society, and so on. And it is ultimately cross-community. So it's a cross-community plan. And the aim is that it should reflect the needs of all across society. Just to say, it is sometimes when you're looking at consultation documents in particular, it can be, it can be quite tempting just to say, well, they're not really that interested in what we have to say. Why should we respond? The reality is this is probably one of the key documents we will see over the coming months and indeed years within Northern Ireland. This is the document that is used primarily to influence budget allocations for the coming 3 years and for the prioritisation of specific issues within departments. So, a cynical, it's easy to be cynical about these things, but the reality is if we're not feeding into the PFG consultation process, there is a risk that some of the key priorities may drop down the priority list, and as a result, we'll end up with a lower budgetary profile within the executive overall. So it is an important opportunity for us to feed our views in. The document itself really is focused on monitoring and measuring progress. And as I say, it really does focus on where the executive's priorities will lie when it comes to the development of policy, strategy, and the allocation of resources. And there is a broader set, whilst the PFG is very much focused on priorities within Northern Ireland. It does seek to align to broader priorities, so at a UK level and also global priorities. So within the PFG, you will see, the likes of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, climate change, and so on, really running through the various priority areas. Okay, so I won't dwell too much on these next few slides, but again, it's really just to give you an overall picture of what the PFG is. So the document itself is really divided into 3 key areas. Probably the most important in terms of this morning's session is the first section, which is titled Doing What Matters Most. And this is really the section that focuses on those key priorities the executive have identified on a cross-government basis that aim to enhance and improve lives across Northern Ireland. There are 9 priorities within it. And we'll drill down into a wee bit more detail around two specific ones shortly, notably delivering more affordable childcare and better support for children and young people with special educational needs. The second area within the PFG is it's more around infrastructure and the development of infrastructure within Northern Ireland in terms of delivering better quality public services. So it's entitled Building New Foundations, and you'll see within that, some of the areas covered: improving the planning system, boosting housing funds, water management, stadia, homes, net zero, and so on. So again, I suppose more focused on the infrastructural development side of things. And then the third area is entitled Shaping a Better Tomorrow. And it really focuses on, I suppose, three underlying key missions as they're called within the PFG: people, planet, prosperity, all rooted within a commitment to peace. And really it just helps to, I suppose, highlight the executive's commitment to these key strands across the programme for government itself. So as I said, really the section or the element we are particularly interested in is doing what matters most, those 9 key priorities. So as I say, these are the priorities that have agreed by the executive ministers as the fundamental priorities for the executive moving forward over the next 3 years. Within them, we've identified 2 in particular we want to focus in on this morning. That's not to say the others are not important. They are, growing globally competitive, sustainable economy, cutting health waiting times, ending violence against women and girls, safer communities, and so on. All critical priorities for us as a society. But we as an organisation just wanted to focus in on these 2: delivering more affordable childcare and better support for children and young people with special educational needs. I'll just pass over now to Catherine.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, so as Alan has said, there are 2 key priorities related to the school-age childcare sector, and arguably one of the most important ones that has the most influence over the sector is the priority 2, which is to deliver more affordable childcare. So the programme for government outlines the issue. The issue is that the childcare costs are extremely high, and affordable childcare is key to supporting working families. So the action to date is the childcare subsidy scheme, which was additional support for eligible preschool children, which SACT was not applicable for. Support for a range of programmes such as Sure Start, Pathway and Toy Box. Again, this did not include the Bright Start initiative or any other school-age childcare specific initiative, and free preschool hours, providing 22.5 free hours of preschool education weekly. Again, there has been to date no financial support or subsidies for school-age childcare. So their proposed action is ensuring every child gets the best start, helping families afford childcare so parents can work, collaboration with parents, providers and experts to design a strategy tailored to families' needs and support the childcare sector, and comprehensive data gathering to inform effective policies. So as you can see, and I'm sure you're already well aware, school-age childcare has not yet benefited from the budget implementation, and so you can see why it is so important for us to draw attention to the inequality and detrimental impact this has had for not only individual settings, but the sector as a whole. Can you move the next slide on there, Alan? Thank you. So yes, if we look at that a wee bit more closely, deliver more affordable childcare. So childcare is a key political priority across the executive parties, and at its core is the establishment of the early learning and childcare strategy, which is which the target is to have a draft form by mid-2025, and parental affordability is a key driver. So the actions to date, again, the 25 million initial investment aimed at primarily improving affordability for parents. However, this is solely focused on preschool and early years, and no provision has yet been made for school-age childcare. So we're proposing that the key messaging for the programme for government response is really to highlight that inequity of support through the early learning and childcare investment to date. And then the real need to prioritise school-age childcare sector, specifically the sustainability, affordability, quality and growth. So another factor that we need to consider within the responses is highlighting the professionalism of the sector, as well as the holistic benefits that school-age childcare provides that other wraparound services or unregistered provision just simply doesn't offer. So you can see there, as we've highlighted, the physical, emotional and social development enhances learning and development, provides support to families, and supports the wider economic growth and engagement, to name a few. I don't need to go into detail on these. You know, I'm sure you're well aware of the fantastic impact that your services offers to children and families. However, PlayBoard have produced this document that you can see on the screen now, and it might be a useful read and is a really good resource to be sharing with key people. So I'll put the link to that just in the chat function. That should have come up. There we go. You should have also received an email just prior to the start of the webinar with that link in it as well. But if you do have any issues in accessing it, just let us know and I can send you it. So the key challenges, again, it's really important to highlight these challenges because the sector has been impacted so badly. Now again, I don't need to go into detail. I'm sure you know you've faced many of these, such as sustainability concerns, increasing demand for special educational needs places, schools offering unregulated childcare and low cost alternatives, you know, etc., etc. The list goes on. But it is important to highlight that whilst in some areas that some of the challenge may be more prevalent, for example, in rural areas, we see the recruitment and retention levels being a lot higher. All of these issues are across the region. You know, it's not isolated and it's not in one area, and it's left the sector in a very vulnerable and volatile position. So again, it's really to highlight this inequality. So while we support the commitment to the early learning and childcare strategy, as well as the £25 million investment, parents and carers of children in school-age childcare have been excluded from this, the affordability support. The business support scheme of 2 million is not accessible, placing settings at risk, and school-age childcare has further been excluded from additional support of £100 per registered child under the non-consolidated stabilisation fund. So yes, it is just really to highlight this inequality. It really is staggering, and now is the perfect opportunity to shout with a collective voice in order to gain the most impact. So I'm going to hand you over to Angela now, who'll take you through the next priority.
Thanks, Catherine. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. So I'm going to take you through priority 5, which is around better support for children and young people with special educational needs. And I know you'll all appreciate that that's a huge and very topical issue at the moment. So the draft programme for government highlights that there are almost 1 in 5 children needing extra support with their education. And I'm going to say that again, 1 in 5 children. That's a startling statistic. I was quite shocked when I read that. And because of that, the current system is therefore struggling to keep up with demand. So that's what the programme for government has highlighted as a key issue. So what they plan to do is overhaul how it supports children with special educational needs to ensure that they receive the best possible help. They want to provide the right support and improve special educational need plans and streamline access to support schools and families. They plan to fund at least 1 learning support coordinator in every single school and provide training that benefits all teachers. They want to develop an early intervention programme which will focus on speech and language development from a young age, and they want to ensure that adequate special educational needs provision is there and offer respite support where it is needed. So a lot of work that they're indicating they want to action. So just the next slide, thanks Alan. So in our PlayBoard response, and we'd suggest that in your responses you say there's something similar, we will be first up kind of saying that the needs and support for children with special educational needs doesn't stop at school. The school-age childcare sector has seen significant growth in demand for special educational needs support during the last number of years. That's rising and rising. The sector needs assistance to meet that growing demand. There are parents of children with particular needs who want to remain economically active and be out at work, so they therefore need school-age childcare. And there's also parents who need respite care through play-based school-age childcare. So there's huge demand on the school-age childcare sector at the moment. Settings are facing significant challenges to meeting that level of need. And the key issues, I suppose, around that are the recruitment of skilled and experienced staff, the extra resourcing for one-to-one dedicated support, and the need for providing capital adaptations or specialist resources to cater for the particular needs of children. And all of that costs money. There are small pots of funding out there, but there's not a lot. So we'll be raising that. We have been advocating for years for the need to explore the sharing of resources, and we've just given you one example up there on the screen. We know that in many areas there are issues with EA-funded transport being unable to drop children off to school-age childcare settings. They'll only drop them to the children's home. So for parents who are out working, that doesn't work. And why is that? Why can't the buses drop to a school-age childcare setting rather than the child's home? So we would question that and raise that as an issue. Something needs to be done around the sharing of resources for the best needs of children and families. We'd also suggest that the executive explore the feasibility of classroom assistants who work during school hours with children on a one-to-one basis, that they transfer, or at least their skills transfer into the school-age childcare settings in the afternoon with the child, and that would allow continuity for the child, or at the very least, that there is a two-way communication and planning between schools and school-age childcare settings. So if a child's receiving one-to-one support in school, why are they not then able to receive one-to-one support within their school-age childcare setting? Beyond education and school-age childcare, then, we'll also be highlighting the lack of inclusive capital fixed play provision across Northern Ireland. So some of you might be aware of the work that PlayBoard has been doing with the May Murray Foundation over the last number of years around the lived experiences of families where there is a child with a disability. And we carried out research back in 2019, which highlighted the many, many barriers that those families face in their daily lives, and in particular for us in regards to their outdoor play experiences within play parks. So we don't have time, unfortunately, to go into that now, but that work and the ADAPT framework that was later developed really highlights where we need to be doing better in terms of catering for children with a disability or special educational need. And there's more information on ADAPT on our website, or if you want to fire us an email, we'd be happy to chat to you if you have an interest around that particular area. So next slide, thanks, Alan. Throughout the consultation document, as Alan said, and within the other priority areas, across those 9 priority areas, PlayBoard will be highlighting a number of additional issues. So our focus for today was around the childcare and the special educational needs, but there are loads of other issues that we will be highlighting within our response, and we just wanted to highlight those with you here now. So as we've said, we want to see acknowledgement and recognition of the central role that school-age childcare has within the early learning and childcare strategy. That's up top. As a rights-based organisation, we would like to see the full incorporation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in Northern Ireland law, similar to what has recently been implemented in Scotland. We're advocating strongly, and have been for a number of years, for the development of a resourced play strategy for Northern Ireland, and that's based around Article 31 and the child's right to play. We'd like to see a review and updating of the strategic planning policy statement to incorporate greater recognition for play. So that's really around how we need to look at the built environment and make sure that the needs of children and young people are taken into account. There needs to be playable spaces within communities and neighbourhoods and residential areas, so we'll do a bit of a focus around that. We'd like to see the establishment of play sufficiency, a play sufficiency approach in line with other jurisdictions such as Wales and Scotland. And that would mean that councils and local authorities must ensure that there's adequate opportunities for children to play, and there would be a duty placed upon them to make sure that they do that. And last but not least, we believe there's a need for focused prioritisation of early intervention for improvement of mental health and wellbeing. Another huge topical issue that we hear continually on the news is about the growing levels of mental health issues, particularly amongst our young people at the moment here in Northern Ireland. So there needs to be a focus on addressing that and on implementing the Northern Ireland mental health strategy, which has barely been mentioned within the draft programme for government. There's loads of other issues. You know, there's issues around poverty, there's issues around the community and voluntary sector, really haven't been placed within the draft programme. There's issues around older people. There's much broader issues that we will be feeding into our response. But for today, we wanted to focus on play and on school-age childcare. So we're going to stop now for a bit of a discussion. I suppose to hear from you, are there issues that we've mentioned today that you want to discuss a wee bit further? Is there stuff that we've missed in terms of play and school-age childcare and indeed those special educational needs issues? So really this is our opportunity to hear from you. If there's any comments or questions at this stage.
I was going to say, from Family Fund's point of view, plays a big factor for us. And in fact, I've just literally come off a call because we give grants to low income families. Unfortunately, because of the funding, normally we'd be able to give like multiple items if somebody was asking for a grant for a washing machine, for example. But we've actually had to restrict that to their priority item. So if it is a bed or if it is white goods, then that's what they're coming from. What we were saying is that then means we can't give them sensory play equipment.
Yeah.
And we were sort of like thinking, should we find a way, even though we haven't got the budget, to actually add in some item of play, because the families are going to need them. So it was quite funny because I literally said I was coming on a call with yourselves after. So we're really, really keen because of that whole well-being aspect as well. So, you know, anything, you know, that we're going to sort of prioritize that side of things as well.
Yeah.
Because we've got 4,000 families out there that we give grants to. It's not enough. We don't have the budget, but we also recognize that that's 4,000 potential families that need play.
Yeah, absolutely. Vicky, thank you for that. I suppose a couple of things are springing into my mind. Yes, 100%. We would support you with that call that you know, those low income families, if they're struggling to put food on the table and heat their houses, they're not going to have additional funds for play activities and so on. We have a lovely little resource which I'll send you afterwards, which is around play at low cost. So at PlayBoard, we very much promote the use of loose parts and the use of things around the home. That people don't need to be spending money to go out and buy equipment or resources, that quite often there is stuff that children love to play with around the home. So we will send that out afterwards. But yes, absolutely, we'd 100% support you on your call there around play. You know, I think it's about highlighting the importance of play for those families. Yeah. And those families won't have a lot of things that families would do with children, going to play clubs or swimming or those kinds of things, all cost money. So certainly ideas or funding to help parents do stuff like that would be really, really good. Sorry, I'm watching the chat here. Catherine's put it in.
Yeah, I put the link to the Play in Times of Hardship resource in the chat box.
Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, just trying to jump in there. Becky, just on the back of Angela, I mean, as an organisation, you know, play obviously is probably for us the most critical activity children engage in terms of their health, well-being, in terms of their development, in terms of their learning skills and their social development and so on. So I mean, it would absolutely support you in that. I think that's one of the things we are really keen to get across within the programme for government, is that, you know, play is not something that just happens. It's not something that children just do to keep themselves occupied. It is a natural, fundamental part of the developmental process, and unless we put in place the systems and the structures that will actually support children to be able to access play, whether that be at home, at school, whether it be in the community, wherever they find themselves. Then as a society we are much poorer, and actually we are depriving those children of those critical opportunities that will help to shape them, shape their future, and will help to support families as well. So yeah, but I completely agree with you on that. And I think for us, outside of the focus on school-age childcare and special educational needs, that will be one of the areas we focus in on, because again, one of the big issues we see is the planning system. The planning system in Northern Ireland is simply not it's not up to scratch in terms of actually considering the needs of children and young people within communities. So there's a journey to go on here. I think in terms of the engagement we've had politically, I think we are making progress. We are seeing a much greater acknowledgement of the importance of play, albeit it is still only one of multiple priorities, and we recognise that. So yeah, I think it's a really, really critical point, actually, and an important point you make there, and something we'd be keen to maybe follow up with you after today as well, just to see if there's anything we can do in terms of supporting
No, that'd be
yourselves.
absolutely brilliant. No, thank you. And as said, I've noticed there's really not a lot on disabled and special needs. That's just not there in there at all, and right up to young adults. So
yeah,
provision needs
definitely.
to be there.
Thank you for that, Vicky. Appreciate that. Okay, folks, any other comments or questions or queries? Or as I say, I suppose this is as much about us hearing from you in terms of if there's something in particular you feel we should be highlighting in our response on your behalf, and indeed sharing to the broader membership. This is the opportunity to do so. Everyone's gone very quiet. So you turn the camera on people and they become very quiet. But as I said today, it's not about putting pressure on anyone. Appreciate we have presented a fair amount of information there, and when we were developing the presentation, we met yesterday and we went, actually, there's quite a bit of detail in here, and there's maybe quite a bit to digest within it. So hopefully we've got the balance right in terms of emphasizing and highlighting the importance of the PFG process, and how critical it is that we do feed in. The other thing to say as well is anyone can feed into the program for government. I think sometimes there's a perception that you have to be an organization or you have to be a body or a group. Individuals can feed in, families can feed in, individual staff members can feed in, members of the community. So I think that's something to be mindful of, particularly when you're looking at developing your own response. We would encourage you to share those key points, with families, with those within your settings, those within your organizations, and ask them to submit it. You don't have to write a thesis on these things. They are, the officials are quite clear. They're quite happy to get 2 or 3 bullet points if that's what you have to say. But what they want people to be able to voice their views, their opinions, and to highlight their priorities as things sit. We will look in a second. We will fire a quick slide up here, which just sort of goes into a bit more detail about how you can actually feed in. But I think it is important just to highlight that. The one thing I met with officials last week from the executive office, and they did highlight to the group the importance of people raising their voice, because they said there is a risk. There are 9 priorities there. If we don't, for example, get enough feedback in terms of why childcare, for example, is a priority, there's a very real risk that drops to number 9 in the priority list. And suddenly, when you have 9 massive priorities for government, that can have an impact not only in budgetary terms, but also in terms of policy and in terms of driving direct interventions and so on. So it is critical that people feed in. And as I say, it doesn't have to be a 20-page thesis. You don't have to go into a lot of detail in terms of the response itself. It's enough to have a number of bullet points that just highlight what you feel is important, why you feel it is important. Just with that, maybe, Angela, if I share the slide on the process for feeding in with people, that might be useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I say, the consultation closes on the 4th of November, so deadlines is coming fairly quickly. Again, last week when I was with officials, there was some talk about an extension. They had an 8-week consultation phase. Ordinarily, it should be a 12-week consultation phase, but I think the pressure was on the executive. As we know, the executive has had a number of setbacks in recent years, and they were keen to get the programme for government through to its next stage. So they have an initial 8 weeks. They have said there's some consideration being given to an extension, but basically don't expect one to come along. It is likely to close on the 4th of November, so it is important we feed in. Based on they reckon 15 minutes to complete. So again, it goes back to that comment. It's not about a thesis. It's not about an extensive piece of work. Our sort of the way we as an organization are approaching this, we will be feeding in on most of the 9 priorities. I think in terms of the membership for school-age childcare and so on, the 2 priorities we've highlighted are probably the critical ones to feed in on. It does give you that space beyond those priority areas to highlight any other issues you feel are of particular interest. So again, it's important just to highlight those within it. And they do say, please tell your friends. They are looking for as many people as possible to feed into this process. You will be aware there's been a fair amount of criticism of the executive in terms of the programme for government, really because it does lack detail. There's not a lot of detail. There are really no measurable targets within it. It feels very much like the start of a journey rather than the end point. So I do feel there will be further development of this program moving forward. So, it's kind of a watch this space. Now, within that, there is an allied draft impact assessment process ongoing. It's due to close on the 2nd of December. So again, that focuses in on 3 key areas: equality, real needs, and children's rights. So that's another element people can feed into, albeit there's a bit of a longer time frame. So the focus for the moment really is on the PFG, the programme for government itself. In terms of how you actually respond to it, the link is on the screen there to the directly to the consultation page. So that takes you to the Executive Office's landing page, from which you can then go through the online survey. The QR code also will take you directly there if you have a phone. But they are also saying that, look, whilst they would prefer people to use the survey, if you, for whatever reason, you can't or you don't want to use the survey, you can contact them separately. So you can email them. I think there's an opportunity to call them if you want to have a conversation around particular issues. So again, the critical thing is, regardless of how you feed into it some way, and make sure your voice is heard within the program itself. Angela, anything else to add from your perspective, or Catherine?
No,
Oh,
go on
sorry.
ahead, Catherine.
It was just a note, maybe if English is a second language, or if there's a learning disability or something like that, they are encouraging you to pick up the phone and ring and speak to them if you're not confident in writing. And if English is your second language, they've advised just to send your response within your preferred language, and they will interpret it. So yes, they're trying in every way to encourage as many people as possible to reply. So if in doubt, give the number a call or contact them via email. I've just noticed Vicky has her hand up there as well. Alan?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I was with the Children's Policy Forum last week, and they said the same as well. If you don't want to do the survey and you want to do like an impactful, maybe 1 or 2 pager with solutions, not problems, is what I was advised, which I thought was actually quite a good way of doing it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually, in terms of feeding in. We find it tends to work better with government if you don't necessarily just highlight the problem, but you come to them with a suggestion of, like, there's a problem, but here's one way you could potentially solve that problem. So again, yeah, that's a good point, Vicky. I think in terms of just providing that solution-oriented approach.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we obviously, in preparation for this and in preparation for our own response, when I first went into the link, it's a bit overwhelming. There's an awful lot of information in there. And I certainly was overwhelmed at times because there was just so much. There's also a number of different links. So the link that was on the screen is the link that will take you directly to where you need to be. Because otherwise, if you Google draft programme for government, you'll go through a number of different avenues to get to where you need to be. So use that link that was on the screen or the QR code. And I suppose for me, just to raise it again, the most important thing is what we're hearing is the more people who raise the same issue, the better that will be listened to. So the more folk we have raising the issues around school-age childcare, not being included within the early learning and childcare strategy, the better. And the more people that we have raising the issue around the issues around play and play strategy development and the needs of those children that we've talked about with particular needs, the more they hear that, the more they'll listen. So that's why it's really, really important, guys, that we get people to respond in whatever way you choose to respond, whether it be through the form or through an email or phone call, whatever. It's just really important that people respond. We're going to be encouraging projects, those settings out there, that they do get their parents to respond as well, because as I say, the value's in the numbers here. So just really important to reiterate that.
Yeah, and just on that as well, you know, we've referenced a few times, Catherine mentioned in the priority 2, so the childcare, the fact that to date, there has been an investment of 25 million, but that hasn't filtered down into the school-age childcare sector. Obviously, that's something we are strongly advocating for. And again, I think it will be important in terms of this will kind of be the first stage, I think, in terms of prioritising childcare within those 9 priority areas. But the early learning and childcare team will also be looking to engage directly with the school-age childcare sector. I do get the sense that there will be a greater focus placed on school-age childcare, hopefully in the coming months. Although that remains to be seen. And obviously, if you've been in any conversations with government officials, you know everything is has that wee spoiler at the end of budget dependent. Everything is budget dependent, and again, it's important, I suppose, that we make sure childcare is up at the top of the priority list when it comes to allocating budgets for the next financial year. When hopefully we will see, I would like to see an increased level of investment in terms of childcare and a particular focus on school-age childcare. Also, folks, just to say, I have popped our email addresses into the chat there. So again, if there's anything you want to follow up on, if there's anything you want to have a chat about, PFG related or non-program for government related, more than happy just to engage with people. As I said, we'll make this recording available. We will also hopefully be sending out our own draft response to the program for government, probably be mid next week, I would think, in terms of by the time we get that over the line. But again, that will hopefully provide you just with a wee bit of a sense of, I suppose, where we're coming from. And if there are elements of that you want to use in your own response, feel free. There's no issues there in terms of that. And also in the meantime, if there's any other support you feel we can give you, again, whether it be program for government or broader, do please get in touch. So if people are happy, everyone's happy enough, I think we'll maybe just close the session there. Hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully we've given you a bit of a sense of the importance of the program for government, why it's important to feed into it, and also we've given you a bit of a sense about where we as an organisation are coming from, and hopefully where the sector needs to be inputting in. So look, folks, thanks for coming along this morning. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you all again. Catherine, this might be a good opportunity actually just to mention Friday.
Yes, so the School-Age Childcare and Play Work Forum is having an extraordinary meeting with the Children's Commissioner Chris Quinn on Saturday, on Friday, sorry, at 10 a.m. So we have moved that session online. So it was just to highlight to everybody that if you would like to join, it's a really, really key opportunity. In getting your voice heard, really, and getting the challenges that you're facing out there, and the solutions and the benefits of your service and the solutions that you see to the challenges that you're facing, to the commissioner, and his engagement may very well be key, going forward, with the development of the early learning and childcare strategy. So you're more than welcome to join. Will we advertise it online so that everybody can get the link just prior to it?
Yeah, I think we can make it available. We will be will be via Zoom, so again it will be remote, so people will be able to dial in. But it is an important, as Catherine kind of says there, it is an important opportunity. We have a new, well, I say a new commissioner. Chris came in about a year ago, so we did, but he is very keen to support particularly the younger children. He feels there has been a greater focus on older children and young people over the years of Commissioner, and he is keen to focus in on younger children. He's very keen on play. He's particularly keen on childcare, and he has a particular interest in the inequity in terms of the support, particularly within this year under the early learning and childcare strategy for school-aged childcare. So it's an opportunity. It's something Chris is really keen to hear from the sector, from those involved. So I do think it'll be a good opportunity just to feed in. Chris does meet with the officials on a regular basis, and again, he has given a commitment that anything raised by the sector at that meeting he will raise directly. So yeah, so you're more than welcome. We'll there you go. There's the link being shared. So again, hopefully, if you are free, I know it's very short notice in terms of it's only 2 days away, but if you are free, we would be delighted to see you at the event itself. And as I say, it's an opportunity just to share, to get your voice heard at that wider level. Okay, folks, so look, thank you very much. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules this morning. As I say, hopefully you found it useful and informative. Anything in the meantime, please do get in touch with us, drop us a line. We'll be glad to do what we can to support, to assist you. And hopefully, after we've all fit into the programme for government, we will begin to see some significant positive shifts for play and for school-aged childcare moving forward, and for children within special educational needs. So thank you all very much.